of splintering, okay? And that's not the main topic, but it's the idea in Taoism that you have the one, it says the one begat the two, which begat the three, which begat the 10,000 things. And that's the order of creation. So that basically just means that this idea of splintering, and it's funny because our former teacher, she talked about this. She was like, well, why are we here? What are we doing here? It's like, well, it's basically so heaven can get to know itself a little better. Like, what? How does that work? And as I was reading through Taoist materials, and thinking about my life, this is what it feels like. You have all of these impacts in your life, right? That create this kind of splintering effect. You don't feel as whole as you did, and everybody has them. And you can feel those pieces start to come together. They were mentioning this idea of, in those moments, right? You're recognizing what's going on within me. Why am I getting so worked up here being around these people? And I was one of those kids. I had no idea that's what was happening. But I was one of those kids that was so splintered that being around people who were emoting a lot of stuff, I felt it totally overwhelming. I used to sing as a little kid. I was put up on stage and you do your thing and then you get off, and then after that's over and the whole service was over, everybody would come up and pat you on the back, because I was about 5 or 6 when I started doing that. And I hated it. I loved the singing part, but I hated the afterwards part. Because it just felt like it was too much, too many people able to have access to me. If I'm on a stage, they can't have access to me. I can do my thing, but they're out there, there's a boundary, there's a barrier. And as I got older, I realized that translated into just about everything. I just did not want to have more than 2 or 3 people in a room, depending on who they were, and I could handle that better. But I didn't even know that was going on until later, that I was having that problem. I just figured that was that way for everybody, except I was usually the only one leaving a room. When there was a group of people, they were all staying, so something weird was going on. But that was that splintering. I couldn't deal with what people were bringing to me. I was disconnected. So I was in my, how old was I? I was in my mid-20s. And so I got a job as an exercise coordinator at a hospital system in Springfield, Missouri, and I was driving back and forth about 30 minutes from Ozark to Springfield and going in there and working in the hospitals, fitness centers and so on. And I finally picked up this book. This is how I got started in all this. I picked up this book. It was about just Qigong in general. Yang Jwingming, very prolific writer of Tai Chi Chuan books and energy books and so on. Really good writer, a scientist and yet also a mystic. And this book was about, how to connect this this microcosmic orbit, how to take the most. You've heard them both mention yang and yin, right? I believe you mentioned.
I did not. I could not.
But the principles were there. And so the primary yang expression of vessel is this pathway that runs up the spine from the tailbone, all the way up between the shoulder blades, all the way over the middle of the head, all the way down to your forehead, and then it goes deep within and connects with the roof of your mouth, and then there's another internal channel we're not going to get into today. Okay, but that is the most yang physical expression. This is something you mentioned though, it's the savings account part. Okay. This yang vessel is paired with a yin vessel, this feminine. Yang, they talked about this whole idea of yang and yin energy and gave you examples of humans being men and women and how we exemplify those energies. Well, that yin part, the feminine aspect, of course, is the conception vessel or the ren vessel, and it runs on the outside from basically between the anus and the genitals, the perineum, and it runs all the way up and goes into the tongue. If you put your tongue to the top of the mouth, guess what you do? You connect a circuit between the total expression in this body of that yang and yin energy, that feminine energy and masculine energy. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm driving back and forth and I'm reading this book daily when I would get home from work, and it was asking me to do certain exercises to connect this flow of energy in the back and the front, in the back and the front, this circuit that was going on. And I would have my back against the bucket seat of the car was shaped perfectly for my height, and I could feel all the parts of me connecting to it, which is a rare thing in the car, and usually something's not quite right. And I could feel, as I was moving my thought, my mind, the energy up my back, I could feel it hitting areas that it didn't want to move through. It was blocked. It wouldn't go past those areas. And then we would finally open that up, and I was short the tools. All I had was awareness. I had nothing else other than awareness to place my awareness there. And to start moving through those blockages and trying to get it moving and flowing. And I had no idea really what I was doing, other than following the advice of this guy named Young. So I'm home one night, I'm on the floor on my back, and I'm lying there, and my belly starts, you know what Jiffy Pop popcorn is? So it's like, right? When's it done? It smells like it's burning. So I looked down at my stomach lying on my back, and I could see it doing this under my skin. I grew up in a tiny town in Missouri, in a Baptist home. My father's a music director and a school teacher. That's the exposure level I had to anything, which was none. To anything happening where popcorn is popping in the lower part of your abdominal cavity. I mean, is it gas? I don't think so. Doesn't feel like that. What's that? Parasites. I've got worms! And that's not what was going on. That Jiffy Pop popcorn was just going and going and going. I was like, oh my gosh, my world has just started to change right here. Because I had no explanation other than this book. The activating of this lower energy center has now begun in your body. What the hell does that mean?
Did they talk about that in the book at all?
Yeah, he's talking about how it's awakening these cavities in your body, but I didn't know what that cavities. I mean, like your teeth. I mean, what are cavities? What are you talking about? So this is all starting to unlock a lot of things in my body, and I was hooked. I was intrigued, but I didn't yet understand what it meant for me. Like, what was this? What was being activated in my body? I didn't understand that I was living a life of disconnection, a life of splintering. I didn't allow myself to feel that yet, because it was just so uncomfortable to go in there and do it. So I just kept following the practices and so on, and I finally ended up at an acupuncture, really good acupuncturist in Springfield, and she started to explain things to me and started to get things moving. And that's when my life started to turn around, because I was really intrigued by this Chinese medical model and how it could explain so many things and had like 10,000 years of history behind it. And I thought, man, something that deep, I'm sure to find some answers to all the weird things happening in my body and to why I feel like something's not right inside of me. Because I knew enough, because the home I grew up in, that there were some things that were definitely off. And so I went to acupuncture school, same school that my teacher went to, or my acupuncturist went to. And there we started talking about, again, this Taoist idea of the one, which begat the two, which begat the three, which begat the 10,000 things. And I started thinking about this whole process of what is this journey for? Is it to develop superpowers? You know, because as a kid, I loved comics. I thought, man, if all this could produce superpowers, wouldn't that be great if we're able to do more than what we think we're able to do? I thought I loved that idea. But I hadn't seen any evidence of that yet. It was still just intriguing to me that maybe I could affect other people's health and learn more about my own experience of my body waking up. And I'm sure a lot of you have had your body waking up in various ways. So I meet this guy named Paul Frazier who comes down to teach. And he does some crazy stuff with a doll. And this wasn't part of the curriculum. This was nowhere in anything listed that we were supposed to be learning. But he picked up the doll and picked out one of my classmates. Said, so, what do you have going on? She goes, well, my right SI joint really hurts a lot. It runs down my leg. He goes, okay. He picks up the doll, and he actually had needles in his hands, actual needles from acupuncture, and he's starting to needle the doll, and she's starting to experience things moving through her body, but of course, he wasn't touching her, he was just using the doll. So that was a huge wake-up call to what's possible. And also how you could use a doll to change people's health and have them experience different movements of energy. So I thought today, this concept of what they mentioned of splintering, or in so many words, and this idea of bringing of life causing us to fracture. And if it happens enough, right, we know we have a splintering of the mind, where we can even have different compartments, and we can access those. And I realized that about myself. Depending on the circumstances I was in, I could become a different aspect of Keith to fit in better in that circumstance, so I would draw less attention to myself. Or maybe draw more attention, depending on what I wanted in the circumstance or the situation. But the Taoist idea of this whole fragmentation, which I'm going to attempt to help you guys start the day with this doll work, is to, again, integrate all these pieces together again. Because there's things that are turned off in our bodies. When they're talking about looking out here, and what do you see? What are you noticing? And some of you saw more than just what your eyes show you. You saw creatures, we'll call them, right? Right? You saw creatures. Well, you have things turned on in your bodies that others don't. But I believe we're all capable of doing that. But some of us have certain things turned on and other things we don't. So I want to use the doll, and you guys do know Pongu Shungang. Most of you do. Maybe only one does not, right? And it's okay, it'll still work. And I want to connect something today to bring us towards a process of bringing things back together and starting to turn things back on. I told you I wanted to activate creativity in you. So Pongu Shungang, like many of you are doing right now, helped turn a lot of things on in my body, a lot of things in my awareness, helped me to become really aware of what's going on here, although nothing compared to what she did when she came into my life. But the awareness factor was there, and feeling energy became a thing I could do. But I realized that I'd left a tool behind me that I wanted to pick back up again. Pongu Shungang again, magic and so on, amazing things. But I had a buddy of mine back in Nashville get a hold of me. He's been watching some of our full Monties online. He goes, "Hey man," and we used to do martial arts years ago, 25 years ago. And he says, I want to exchange something. You've got something you've developed inside of you after this many years that I can feel I'd like to have in me, and I've got something I think you're going to want. And it was a key to turning something on inside of me. Something that connects us to nature that I yet had not had turned on inside of me. I didn't know it till I felt it in him. I was like, you do have something. There's something alive in you that I don't have turned on inside of me. And he said, well, what I want you to do, this is going to help you to bring some of those fragments back together. I'm like, there we are again. We're back to this bringing idea of things whole again. I said, all right, I feel like I've done quite a bit of work in that area. He said, well, I did too, but I'm telling you, this awakening that you can have is going to do it in another way. And I said, all right, I trust you. Something's different in you I don't have going on. He said, but I need you to do this exercise to prepare for it. I'm like, okay, well, what's the exercise? And he goes, well, I want you to sit down and I want you to move energy up your spine. And I want you to, I said, I know this. This is that thing that I learned about 20 some odd years ago in that book by Yang Jung-Ming called the microcosmic orbit. Do you even know what I'm talking about? Really? Who's saying yes? Barbara's saying yes. Raise the hands. Okay, so 4 people, right? So here I am again. It's all full circle. I thought I explored that tool enough to where it did what it was going to do for me, and it got me through the doorway into energetics, and I was kind of done with that. He goes, no, I need you to do it again. I thought, well, okay, I can get back to it. I can get back to prepping myself for whatever he was going to do to me when I went to Nashville. So I'm going to be in person to do this thing. So I did it for 30 days before I went there, a month. And I teach my students, and a lot of you know this, and I work on this aspect of us in full Monty work, Wednesday night Cultivate Life Force Health System. But I work on these, what we call Huatou Jiaji points, right? These are all these points that are connected to all your organ systems that are found in the intervertebral, meaning in between the spaces of your spine, right? Where your cushion is. They're found all through there. And I thought, well, gosh, I work on those all the time. How much can I possibly get out of this practice of going back and doing these microcosmic orbits again? Because I break these things all the time in myself and other people. But come to find out, I had a lot of stuff going on there I was not noticing. So it made me realize how important this practice was, and I had to prep for this awakening thing he was going to do on me. So what I want to teach you, because I found that it was so important, I want to teach you the microcosmic orbit. I want to open it up, but here's the difference. we're going to use Pong Qigong energy to move through that circuit, because when I combined that with the microcosmic orbit this time as opposed to 20 some odd years ago, a very different experience. And it's something you can do in your car, you can do it lying down in bed, you can do it anywhere. You can start activating that. And you can say the password phrase of Pong Qigong while you're moving it through your body. Okay?
Should we have Holland looking that way?
I want to see what Holland, you have to give us a constant report, Brandy, of what you're seeing as you're doing it.
Oh.
I'm kidding, you don't have to do that. But a report afterwards might be.
No, because it's written on the back of her shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
password phrase.
So we have her facing that way. And
Well, that just puts her on the spot.
I know, I was totally joking.
But first, I want to help open it up inside of you before we start to move it through. Okay? And if we start seeing people approach us, we're supposed to be out here by 3, supposedly. But I've seen nobody lining up to take the space over. So I'm going to assume that either they didn't have somebody take it over or somebody had it and they canceled. So we're going to go until we're done or they kick us out of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to be an awareness aspect here, what we're going to do. And I'm going to needle the doll to help ignite this inside of you, all right? So we're going to start by, I'm going to do what's called a husband-wife treatment on all of you. So we're back to yang and yin. All it means is a yang and yin treatment, but it's the major rivers in the body that we're going to do. Those major ones I was telling you about. So what would be the husband in this scenario, right? You've got that yang energy here. And it's the yin energy that's coming up the front, those 2 major rivers. And what it means by a block is sometimes that energy is not flowing. And the person can sometimes feel like they're dead or almost dead or blocked or can't connect with life anymore. And you can imagine, before I learned how to do this on the doll, I had to do this with a patient in person. So it's like, I need you to take your pants off. I'll leave the room. I want you to put a towel over yourself, and I then want you to put your feet up. For guys, they're like, what are you talking about? Women knew what I was doing. And I need access to your taint. It's like, that's the perineum. And then I would have to needle that, and then needle under their tailbone with different needles, of course. And then I would take a separate needle, and I would needle here to open up that pathway. And truly, the 2 times I did this on one guy and one girl, I knew very well as patients, it was a resurrection. They felt like they were coming back to life in that moment. It was amazing. Thank God I learned how to do it on the doll, because it was really uncomfortable to say, now would you please get on all 4s on the table in child pose so I can get to your tailbone. And you're swabbing areas to make sure they're clean. I mean, so aren't you thankful I learned how to use the doll? So let's do a husband-wife treatment right now in the same order I would do. So I want you to close your eyes only because I want you to see if you can feel this. Some of you will, some of you won't. Some will question whether you are or not. And I'm not going to tell you where I'm putting the needle first. So don't peek. You're peeking. Nicole. All right, so we're going to line up on the point. Now I'm looking at my group here. I don't want to pull any bystanders walking by. Someone's going to get goosed. Here we go. We're on the skin. Needle's going in. So what I'm doing right now is I'm saying take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Now we're going to go to the second point, all right? Needle's on the skin. And there we go. And connect it right there. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Moving to the third point. All right, here we go. On the skin. And here we go. And connection's been made right there. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Moving to the final point, number 4, putting needle on the skin. Connection's been made right there. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Anybody feel anything interesting there to report about?
Initially, my lungs got real heavy, like it was hard to breathe, and then I could feel like the energy up my back.
I started to tell them. Cool, thanks. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start moving this through that circuit. We've opened up some key points. I'm going to open up 4 more. All right, so here we go. Needles on the skin. And we're in and connecting right there. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Moving to the second point. Needle on the skin and in. Connections made. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Point number 3. On the skin and connections made. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. And the 4th point, on the skin, connections made. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness. Too hard. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. How are you guys doing? Anything strange to report or interesting? Everybody's all right?
I feel like really hot.
Yeah. Me too. It's like, is it 90 now? What happened? It's like, the front cooled it off, didn't it? So we're getting things moving further and further around, like getting it moving more strongly as not as yourself. All right, so we've got things open now. Let's start moving it a little more forcefully through. All right. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing at this point, so you can start to picture what I'm doing, so you can start to follow along. I am going to start with your tailbone, and I'm going to start moving the energy up, that yang, that masculine energy up the back, and getting it flowing in this pathway to the top of your head. That's where I'm going to go. I'm telling you where I'm going. And I'm going to call out vertebrae as I'm moving up, all right? First, we're starting at that tailbone, the coccyx. And I'm going to spend a little time here, because the part I haven't told you about yet is what happened, right, whenever I went to Nashville to have this buddy of mine do his part. Who here has heard of Kundalini? All right. So there's an equivalent to it, sort of, in the Chinese culture, and it's called Kan and Li. Now that doesn't mean just yang and yin. It means more than that. But what it means is through our lives, as we're trying to have longer and happier and healthier lives, if we don't start to create balance and reconnection to the things that all of nature already is, the hot, the yang, which is a lot of it gets in the heart. We get fire in the heart with all the emotions they were talking about. We stay heated, right? We do things to try to remove that and get it away from that area to keep us safe, but it still builds up there. It eventually, all that heat starts to build up and rise, and we burn out. And the kidney energy, or the water energy, tends to have a downward motion. So heat goes up and coolness goes down. That water eventually starts to move down, and you have prolapsing. You have just things no longer holding energy in your body. You don't retain like a good battery at all. You can't cultivate and store. And so we end up dying earlier deaths with a lot more illness than we should have. So in Kan and Li, what that means, and we'll do this in the next couple of days, we're going to take and flip those energies, because what do you want to do? You want to take the water and put it on top and put the heat below it, the yang, and steam the water so that it starts to irrigate or mist all of your organ systems and your mind so that you are nourishing all of it. And so we're going to open everything up, and then we're going to flip those energies around to start that in your body. Now this Kan Li ultimately though does dovetail or have a correlation with Kundalini, because it is a connection and an awakening. And so what I've experienced over the last 3.5 months after he awakened that in my tailbone is massive movements of energy up and mostly up in my body. Like stronger than anything I've ever felt before through my body. Connecting something I didn't know was disconnected. But I can tell this is something that Origin probably, at least he did for sure in the beginning, have stored up. Why? Because when you're conceived by your parents, that is the residual energy that is sitting in the tailbone. It's stored there. You know when you get access to it again? Usually? When you die. But if you can open and awaken that and get connected to it again and let it flourish and rewire you, as my friend says, from 110 to 220, talking about electricity, you have a very different experience and a different connection with nature. So I'm not here to awaken your Kundalini. However, I am here to open the pathway that allows that stuff to flow really well so that you have better connection in general. But also, to be quite honest, of course, I want to give you guys a chance in the future when I start to do that things are already prepped and ready to go, and you can have a much easier time having that awakened and connect for you in the future. Some of you already had some awakening and arising, but the goal is for it to be permanent. It connects and it never stops. Yes.
The movement of this energy, that also affects the Huatuo points as well.
Oh yes, because it's moving up the spine. It's moving up in a lot of areas, but the ideal pathway, at least in the beginning, is to move up the spine, and then it cycles back down, and you moving it back down like you're swallowing, and it goes down the front, and it gets stored and moves through you. And that's what you do to regulate. Whether it's awakened in the Kundalini aspect or not, it's irrelevant to the idea that it can help to regulate. Take the password phrase, which we're getting ready to do, and start moving it through the password phrase. Whole different ball game. You're prepping your body in a way with Pangu Qigong to do what I'm talking about, this Kan Li, this awakening of Kundalini. You're prepping the body, I believe, in a very different way than you would have otherwise.
And what would we expect?
Well, with the opening of all this, you can end up having a lot, opening meaning just the pathway of the microcosmic orbit, to be specific, precise. You're going to have even further possible emotional release. A lot of organ system aspects that were not quite functioning properly come back online, because in those Huatuo points on that yang channel, if there's blockage going on, then you're not getting communication, this circuit from the brain, if you will, and the central nervous system, down to the organ systems that it ties to, connects to, all the way to the back, and back up the brain again. You don't have that communication. For instance, if someone comes to me and says, and I've got them, to work on in person, I can have them feel this, I've got pancreatic cancer. Well, that's a scary one, isn't it? You're like, oh crap, that's a death sentence for a lot of people under normal circumstances of the allopathic world. But I would have a blockage along the spine that correlates with that tumor, because the information and energy isn't flowing back and forth to that organ system like it should. So the organ system is having a state of dysfunction, in this case, to the point of having a tumor, or tumors, cancer. And so you would want to open that up to restore flow again. You can reduce tumor sizes fast if you can open that back up again. Imagine if you could do this for yourself. Barbara and I have talked about this. There you are. You know, any massage therapist who works on you, I don't know they all understand the importance of what they're doing, but if you can have someone in person and put your thumb right on that spot, and they're like, oh gosh, what is that? Well, through this model, you can say, that's the reason why you're having at least a portion of the reason you're having pancreatic cancer. And if we can get this to dissolve, it's step one to getting that flow connected again. If you can do the microcosmic orbit yourself, guess what you can help prevent? Any of this blockage going on in organ dysfunction. That, as you said earlier, I believe, in your presentation, and of course I know you did, the organ systems and the emotional states, you know, all this, I know you did for sure, it's tied together. So if you're connecting all of this back together again by having this microcosmic orbit, especially with the password phrase, you are then opening all of this pathway that gives all the organ systems the energy they need, the information they need to function like they should. And so this idea of getting sick, for Michelle, if she's got this moving through her in a very powerful way, it doesn't really matter whatever bites you. You know, tick, the bats have been flying around her house, in the house, the last 2 months.
Invite them back.
You can ward anything off, you know, pretty much if you've got this flowing and moving. So I wanted to give you guys this skill set because it's really powerful and you can connect it to the Qigong. And also, if you want to do stuff with me in the future and you want to have this awaken and have it moving within you, this massive power. I mean, every week I'm alive, this gets stronger inside of me. And what's funny is I've been looking around and feeling, I can feel that buzzing that I feel in me in everything else. And this is what I realized that this friend of mine was not wrong about. He goes, the reason that you don't connect with nature the way you maybe feel like you should, you certainly don't, is because the thing that is alive in nature is not alive in you. It has been turned off, disconnected. And in his world, he goes, this is not about having it awaken. It's not about having just rise up and give you some orgasmic experiences every so often in your life. This is about it hitting and connecting and about it staying connected forever. I watched this guy bend fire and smoke with his hand. I've known him for 25 years. He couldn't do that when I knew him before. And I said, how are you able to do that? He goes, I am so connected now in this way that I have connection to the elements. And he goes, I just connected right now. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he did this, and the flame followed his hand over, and then he did that. And it kept moving. He goes, that's because that you feel alive and everything else out there is supposed to be alive in us. But you've got to prep everything first before you ever get that connected back on again, or you can jack yourselves up. All right? We're talking some rough business for people who aren't prepping the stage. So what I want to do today is teach you the beginning part of this. We've got things moving, but I want to get it really moving. That way you can feel like it's 100 degrees out here. Actually, you'll start to cool off here in a minute. All right, so here we are. The tailbone, you ready? Coccyx, here we go. Now I'm going to say the password phrase outside or out loud, and you're going to get really tired of hearing it probably, but maybe you'll kind of go off in the state that Pam was in right now, and you won't even notice anymore. All right, so take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Moving up now from the coccyx, now into the sacral plate. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. 燕氣善良壞基本，以親實人來壞看壞，因此而嚟，對此而來，懂此而情，行此以果。Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. 因此善良壞基本，以親實人來壞看壞，因此而嚟，對此而來，懂此以情，行此以果。Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Now place all your tongues to the top of your mouth, lightly touching the top of your mouth. And I am going to use Angel-Geschichte song to again move energy from the base of the spine all the way into the roof of your mouth, but keep that tongue touching to the top. And here we go. Om Sei Safanata. Om Sei Safanata. Ooh, ooh, safe Nankam, Seiken. Safe Nankam, Seiken. Ooh, safe no. Ooh, forsake. Safe Nankam, Seiken. Nay, Fonote. Comforting. Here comforting. Comforting. Ye comforting. Hey, for no day. For no day. Tien Keno. Tien Keno. Niam 48. Niam 48. Tien Keno. So we've brought it to the roof of the mouth, and so now that's the yawn. Now we're going to connect it to the tongue, and we're going to swallow that down. So it's really going to an inside pathway, all the way down, like at the inside of your sternum, the inside of your abdominal wall, all the way down until it reaches back to almost where we started. You're talking back to the perineum, the place where I was like, all right, put a cloth over it, that place. So let's start doing the password phrase and moving it all the way down and see what you notice. Keep the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Okay? All right, here we go. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion. And accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as a basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. All right. Some feedback. How are you guys doing? What are you noticing?
I was feeling like it was all stuck right here. And I started moving it down. And my mind, I guess, it rolled right into the non-moving zone.
Oh, wow. That puts you in a very receptive state, the non-moving
So
zone
I
does.
was doing that while you were.
Sure.
And I felt it moving down my body.
Good.
My body was
Freed up.
covering.
You had a little few shakes, little chi sensation.
It covered.
Perfect. Anybody else?
My salivary glands were, I felt like I had lemon in them. Like the saliva was, I had to keep
Flowing up.
swallowing.
Do you know in
Okay,
Taoist practices,
What's that?
in Taoist practices, that is an evidence of good movement. The saliva collects and it has great energy in it when you swallow it.
Yeah, it just kept happening. It was,
Wow.
I would swallow it and then it would just come like.
Excellent. Wow. You're a Taoist master already. Anybody else?
My and it's still doing my whole lower back feels like there's icy hot all over it.
Well, that's the beginnings of
Yeah.
something else. That's some of that awakening going on in there.
Like a Kundalini like that?
A little bit of it. Any kind of electricity, fire, icy feelings, bubbling,
Pain.
pain.
My spine is like right now, just from here all the way down. I just want to take it and do stuff to it and like move it around because it just like
You feel all kinds of.
yeah, I had to really go down to try to stretch it out because it's crazy things.
Yeah.
And then I immediately got congestion like right there.
Yeah, it'll open. It'll hit the sinuses. I used to do that in the beginning. I felt when I did the microcosmic orbit, I would feel all this, and I had lots of sinus problems, especially back then.
Especially the right side.
Okay, interesting. What's that? You feel it in the bladder channel, like still sitting in the bladder channel. Little residual. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean sometimes it'll. Yeah, I mean because that's those bladder channels are just right on both sides of the spine, an inner and outer bladder channel on both sides. You're going to have energy moving up and down, you know, that area as well. Anything else?
I just saw a Tin Man, like I need an oil can in my spine, and I just see like a tin can oiling from head top to bottom.
If I only had a brain.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that happens back there. All that organ affiliation. Anybody else before we move on?
I don't feel anything.
Well, what'll be
Why
interesting-
is that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure of why that is. What's interesting, whenever I don't feel something, well, I had that ceremony done when I was in Nashville. It was 15 minutes long, and I was like, all right, he's going to do it to me. I'm standing there like, yes, I'm ready to receive. He's patting my legs down and doing all this stuff to wake all my meridians up. He's almost abusive, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, should I have a cup on? You know, what's going to happen? And I'm standing there, and he does this thing, and I'm like, yeah, baby, he's got the hands on me, he's doing it, he's imparting it. Nothing. For 15 minutes, not a thing. And I left going, crap. Maybe it didn't take. I was really wanting it. I was in such a state of reception, and I got nothing. And it was only after I was sitting next to her on the futon, and we're sitting there, you're to my left, and I had my back's up against her, and I went, oh. And you're like, what was that? I'm like, I think I have a mouse in my spine. It felt like it went and just ran up my spine. I was like, oh gosh, what is that? So sometimes my point is, it's delayed.
Can you just tell me, because I'm never sure if I have my tongue in the right spot.
Different positions, I would put it like, right, this is a good question. I should have told you this in more
Right
detail.
behind the teeth?
Right behind the teeth, because each position, because you have the pockets, right? Here's behind the teeth. Here's the next position, it falls into that little pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you cut it back to where your soft palate starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those, and we're going to get into this in the next couple of days, a little bit. There's too much to cover. It opens up different aspects. It opens your pineal gland. It opens up your pituitary. I mean, if you want to get into the anatomy of it, but it's connecting you to like the North Star. It's connecting you to the different constellations. It's opening up all these different positions by moving the tongue back. But the easiest one to hold into place is that front teeth position. But I just want you to know there's a difference. And you can play with that. We probably aren't going to play with that because we don't have time. But just comfortably, like you should shut your mouth, and it just rests like that. If you don't do that while you're doing this work, you can have some not so much fun. You want to have that tongue connected, okay, when you're running this circuit. All right, so what I want to do now, I've got to check my time. 3:15. All right, so we need to rock and roll. So what we're going to do, and I know you guys are like shocked because I can see this going on. You're wilting like flowers. I'm going to have you guys, you're the only person who doesn't know the Qigong, right? Okay, it's not going to make that big of a difference because we're just going to tie everybody into you. So
Yes.
you're part of the circuit. And you can just sit there. Actually, you get the better end of the deal because you usually get to sit there and just experience what's going to happen. And they're all going to be moving their hands around. We're going to do one moving form and we're out of here. While we're doing that, I'm going to be moving this through all of you. And I want you to all, because you're going to be powering the movement of this through you. And then I want you to feel what's going on. And then maybe, Donna, you might feel it more. Okay? Yeah, and truly when you're doing the Qigong form, I would have it there anyway. Because you want the circuit. All your other 12 organ systems, the 12 meridians, you go to an acupuncturist, they're working on your limbs, your legs, they're working on the 12 meridians. Those are all tributaries running off the main rivers. They talk about this in the Chinese language. This is about streams and bubbling brooks and rivers and all this connection of energy that's described in the way of water. So by doing this, you're giving some organ systems that have been struggling a chance to thrive again because they're reconnected to the masculine and the feminine in balance. So we're going to do the Qigong form to create a lot of energy right now because there's quite a few of us here. And then we're going to run that sucker. And if you want to take part in the actual, if you can do both at the same time, walk and chew gum, pat your head, you can do the Qigong. If you want to sit there and play with this, for those of you who raised your hands earlier who've done this before, I want you to go ahead and start moving that, or if you haven't, try moving it through that circuit I just did and see if you don't notice something, okay? You don't have to. You'd be like, look, I just learned this. I'm not going to do that at the same time. You don't have to. But if you want to, you can. I meant to bring that and I didn't do it, but it's okay. We'll make it work anyway. I need that.
Oh, hang on, you want me to stop it?
Oh, yeah. Hi.